Black screen. The sound of ragged breathing fills the void. In the biting winter of 1874, deep within the lawless expanse of Wyoming Territory, there existed debts that could never be repaid with gold. Some debts were written in blood, some in broken promises, and some, like the one about to unfold in the darkness of a February blizzard, were written in the desperate calculus of survival itself. The breathing grows louder, closer. Terror given voice in the frigid air. Fade in. The night is alive with violence. Snow falls in thick curtains, each flake a tiny blade cutting through the blackness. Through this white chaos a figure runs, small, desperate, stumbling through drifts that reach above the knees. Adelaide Gray is 19 years old, though she looks like something conjured from winter itself. Her hair, white as new fallen snow, streams behind her in a tangled banner. Her skin, pale beyond pale, seems to glow with an otherworldly luminescence in the moonlight. Blood stains her torn dress, a shocking scarlet against the white fabric. The blood is not all hers. Behind her, the sounds of pursuit. Dogs baying with the hunger of wolves, horses thundering through the forest, their riders shouting commands that cut through the storm like rifle shots. Find her! She cannot have gone far. The voice belongs to someone who believes he owns her, someone who collects rare things, someone who mistakes possession for love. Adelaide's bare feet leave crimson prints in the snow. Each step is agony. Each breath burns in her lungs like swallowed fire. But she does not stop. She has spent 19 years in captivity. She will die before she returns to a cage. A gunshot cracks the night. The bullet strikes a tree trunk inches from her head, sending bark and splinters exploding into the darkness. Adelaide throws herself behind a fallen log, her hands scrabbling in the snow for purchase. Her fingers close around something cold. Metal. A knife. Small, but sharp. The blade is already stained red. She had taken it from the man who tried to stop her escape. She had not hesitated when she used it. Another voice calls out through the storm, closer now. Too close. You cannot run from what you are, Adelaide. She crouches lower, pressing her body against the frozen earth. Her violet eyes, so weak in daylight, can see with perfect clarity in the darkness. She watches a massive shape move between the trees. A man on horseback searching, hunting. Adelaide's hand tightens on the knife handle. The blade trembles, not from fear, from rage. A rage that has been building for 19 years in the darkness of a root cellar, a rage that has finally found its voice. She whispers to herself a promise or a prayer. Not Adelaide anymore, not anyone's anymore. The rider moves closer. Adelaide raises the knife, preparing to strike one more time, preparing to add one more sin to the tally that has already damned her soul. And then the screen goes black. The image shatters like broken glass. Title card: 3 months earlier. The transition is violent, jarring, from chaos to stillness, from the wild fury of the hunt to something far worse. Captivity. The root cellar beneath the gray homestead exists in perpetual twilight. No windows permit the passage of sun. No fresh air circulates through the cramped space. Only dampness. Only the smell of earth and rot and human misery compressed into 4 wooden walls and a dirt floor. This has been Adelaide Gray's world for as long as memory serves. The cellar measures perhaps 8 feet by 10. Too small to pace, too dark to see clearly even at midday when thin lines of light creep through gaps in the floorboards above. The ceiling is so low that a grown man would have to stoop. Adelaide, slight and small, can stand upright. This is her only advantage in this underground prison. She sits now in the corner wrapped in a gray woolen shawl so threadbare that it provides almost no warmth. February cold seeps through the walls, through the floor, into her very bones. She does not shiver anymore. Her body has learned that shivering wastes energy, and energy is precious when meals come irregularly and are rarely enough. Above her head, the sounds of destruction, furniture being overturned, glass shattering, the heavy, stumbling footsteps of a drunk man trying to outrun his demons. Duncan Gray is screaming at ghosts. "Ruth, Ruth, why did you leave me with this?" The word "this" falls like a hammer blow. Adelaide flinches, her hands moving instinctively to cover her ears. But she does not cry. Crying is a weakness she abandoned years ago. Instead, she waits. She has become very good at waiting. The walls of her prison are covered with words. She has carved them with a bent nail she found years ago, scratching letter by letter into the wooden beams until her fingers bled. The words are her catechism, her rebellion, her desperate attempt to remember that she is human. I am not a monster. I am not a curse. I am not nothing. Hundreds of repetitions. Thousands. Each one a small act of defiance against the man who calls himself her father, but treats her like a shameful secret to be hidden away from the light of day. The trapdoor above her head groans open with a sound like bones breaking. Weak lamplight spills down the ladder, and Adelaide shields her eyes with a translucent hand. Even this dim glow is painful after hours in complete darkness. Get up, girl. Duncan Gray's voice is rough, abraded by cheap whiskey and a lifetime of bitterness. He descends the ladder with the unsteady gait of the perpetually drunk. At 52 years old, he looks 70. His face is a roadmap of poor decisions, each line and scar a testament to regret. But his grip when he seizes Adelaide's wrist is still strong enough to bruise. It is day, Papa. The light hurts. Adelaide's voice is soft, nearly toneless. She has learned that emotion only makes things worse. Begging earns beatings. Tears earn contempt. Only quiet acceptance is occasionally rewarded with mercy. I do not care about your eyes. Duncan hauls her to her feet with a violence that sends pain shooting up her arm. She stumbles malnourished legs, barely able to support her weight after sitting motionless for so many hours. I need you in town. Put a bonnet on. A thick one. I will not have the neighbors seeing you and crossing themselves like you are a demon. Adelaide stares at her father, trying to find some trace of humanity in his bloodshot eyes. She finds nothing, just desperation and greed, and something that might be guilt buried so deep it no longer matters. Ta'anololim, why? The question slips out before she can stop it. Questions are dangerous. Questions suggest that she believes she has a right to know her own fate. Duncan's face twists into something ugly. Because I am out of coin and Mr. Ashmore's man is in town. Time to settle accounts. The words hang in the cold air like a death sentence. Adelaide understands immediately. She has always been quick despite the isolation, perhaps because of it. When you have nothing but time and darkness, your mind either sharpens or breaks. Hers has done both. You are selling me. It is not a question. Duncan's hand twitches and Adelaide braces for the blow, but it does not come. Instead, her father turns away, unable to meet her eyes. I am paying a debt your mother created. My mother has been dead 19 years, and I have been paying for her sin ever since. The shout echoes in the confined space. Duncan grabs Adelaide by both shoulders, now shaking her with a fury that seems to surprise even himself. Do you know what it is like to raise another man's mistake? To look at you every day and see her face, to watch you grow and know that every breath you take is a reminder of what I lost. Adelaide goes very still. There is something in his words, something she has never heard before, not just anger, not just resentment, something deeper. What do you mean, another man's mistake? But Duncan is already dragging her toward the ladder, muttering to himself in a way that makes Adelaide wonder if madness has finally claimed what little sanity he had left. The wagon ride to Granite Ridge is torture of a different kind. Adelaide is wrapped in layers of burlap and wool, every inch of skin covered to protect against the brutal Wyoming sun. But the heavy fabrics are suffocating. She feels like she is being buried alive, sealed in a cloth tomb, while the wagon rattles over frozen ruts in the road. Duncan drives in silence, broken only by occasional muttering. Adelaide catches fragments, names she does not recognize, sums of money that seem impossibly large, and one phrase repeated like a mantra. It is the only way. The only way. She would understand. She would have to understand. Adelaide does not ask who she is. She knows. Her mother, Ruth. The woman who died bringing Adelaide into a world that did not want her. The town of Granite Ridge appears on the horizon like a scar on the landscape. It is less a proper settlement and more a collection of desperate structures clinging to existence in a place where nothing should survive. A trading post, a blacksmith, a hotel of questionable reputation, and the Tin Star Saloon which serves as church, courthouse, and confession booth for every lost soul within 100 miles. Duncan does not take her to the saloon. Instead, he pulls the wagon around to the back of the trading post, a squat building that smells of tobacco gun oil and the accumulated sweat of countless transactions. "Stay close," he commands, finally pulling the layers of fabric from Adelaide's face. "Keep that bonnet low. If you look at anyone, I will take the strap to you." The interior of the trading post is dimly lit, which is the only mercy Adelaide receives. Her eyes, so useless in bright light, adjust quickly to the gloom. She can see everything with perfect clarity. The shelves lined with goods, the counter scarred by years of hard use. The men gathered near the stove, warming themselves and watching her entrance with undisguised curiosity. And standing by the counter waiting is the man who has come to purchase her. Mr. Webb is not what Adelaide expected. She had imagined someone crude, rough, a frontier barbarian who dealt in human flesh with the same casual brutality he might show buying cattle. Instead, Webb is refined, well-dressed in a suit that must have cost more than every item in this trading post combined. His hair is carefully groomed. His hands are soft, unmarked by labor, but his eyes are the coldest thing Adelaide has ever seen. Colder than the Wyoming winter, colder than the cellar floor. They assess her with the detached interest of a man examining a particularly unusual insect. "Let me see the merchandise." The word merchandise lands like a slap. Duncan hesitates for only a moment before pulling the bonnet from Adelaide's head. The reaction is immediate. Webb's eyes widen. One of the men by the stove makes the sign of the cross. Another backs away, as if her very presence might be contagious. Adelaide stands perfectly still, her white hair cascading down her back in a waterfall of impossible color. Her skin seems to glow in the dim light, luminous and alien. And her eyes, those violet-pink eyes that cannot bear the sun, reflect the lamplight like a cat's. "My God," Webb breathes. The reports were accurate. Duncan speaks quickly, desperately, like a man trying to convince himself as much as the buyer. "She is strong, healthy, can work, can cook and clean. She is obedient. Never caused trouble, never tried to run." Webb raises a hand, silencing him. "Mr. Ashmore does not need workers. He needs rarities." He circles Adelaide, slowly examining her from every angle. She feels his gaze like hands on her skin, violating in a way that has nothing to do with touch. He is cataloging her, pricing her, reducing her to a sum of unusual features that might be displayed for profit. A voice cuts through the transaction. "Brother Gray, what are you doing?" The voice belongs to Reverend Isaiah Thorne, though he has not been a proper reverend for nearly 5 years. He stands near the door, his arms full of supplies, his face etched with horror, and something that might be recognition of his own failures reflected in this moment. Duncan turns on him with surprising venom. "Church business is not your business anymore, Isaiah. You lost that right when you lost your collar." Isaiah steps forward, setting down his supplies with deliberate care. He is a tall man, nearly 60, with the stooped shoulders of someone who has carried too much weight for too long. His hands shake slightly, the tremor of a man who drinks to forget and has forgotten too much. "Child," he addresses Adelaide directly, ignoring Duncan, "you do not have to do this." Duncan yanks Adelaide away, pulling her toward the counter where Webb waits with barely concealed impatience. "She is my daughter. I will do with her as I see fit." Webb intervenes, producing a leather wallet thick with bills. $800, half now, half on delivery to Mr. Ashmore in Cheyenne. The amount seems to stagger Duncan. His hands shake as he reaches for the money, $400 in crisp bills that represent more wealth than he has seen in years, perhaps more than he has seen in his entire life. Adelaide watches the transaction with a strange detachment. She is watching her own sale, watching her value being calculated in currency, watching the man who calls himself her father choose money over whatever fractional claim to humanity she might represent. And then she speaks, her voice quiet but clear in the hushed room. "Did she know? When she died, did Mother know you would do this?" The question strikes Duncan like a physical blow. His face goes pale beneath the weathered tan. His hand, still reaching for the money, trembles violently. The slap comes so fast that Adelaide does not see it. One moment she is standing. The next, Her head has snapped to the side, her cheek burning, the metallic taste of blood in her mouth. Your mother knew exactly what kind of curse she was leaving me. But there are tears in Duncan's eyes when he says it. Tears of rage or grief or guilt, Adelaide cannot tell. Perhaps all three. Perhaps Duncan Gray himself does not know anymore. Webb completes the transaction with clinical efficiency. Money changes hands. Documents are signed, crude bills of sale that reduce a human life to a legal transfer of property. And through it all, Isaiah Thorne watches with a helpless horror of a man who knows he should intervene but cannot find the courage. The hotel room where Duncan locks Adelaide is a study in degradation. The walls are stained with water damage and what might be blood. The single window looks out onto an alley filled with refuse. The bed is a straw mattress on a frame that groans with every movement. Duncan shoves her inside and produces a heavy padlock. "I will be back in the morning. Webb's men will collect you then. You will go quietly. You will not make trouble. Do you understand?" Adelaide nods. She has learned when to pretend obedience. Duncan starts to leave, then stops. He turns back, and for just a moment Adelaide sees something unexpected in his face, regret perhaps, or even love buried under so many layers of resentment it has fossilized beyond recognition. "I am sorry," he whispers. "God help me, I am sorry." Then he is gone, the lock clicking into place with a finality that sounds like a coffin being sealed. Adelaide waits until his footsteps fade before moving. She goes to the window, looking out at the alley below. The sun is setting, painting the sky in shades of purple and red. Her time of day, the only time when the light does not hurt. She examines the room with the careful attention of someone used to making the most of limited resources. The lamp on the small table, the cracked mirror on the wall, the bent nail holding a faded curtain. She picks up the lamp, testing its weight. It would be easy, so easy. One match and the hotel would burn. She would burn with it. But she would die on her own terms, not as someone's possession. Adelaide sets the lamp down carefully. She is not ready to die, not yet, not when she has never truly lived. Instead, she kneels by the bed, hands clasped in a prayer position that feels both natural and absurd. She has prayed before countless times in the darkness of the cellar. God has never answered, but she tries one more time. "God, if you are there, if I was made for a purpose beyond being a curiosity in some rich man's collection, show me, because right now I cannot see it. I cannot see any reason for this, any reason I was born different, any reason I have suffered." Her voice breaks on the last word. She stops swallowing the tears that threaten to fall. Crying is weakness, and she cannot afford weakness tonight. The answer to her prayer comes in the form of violence. Outside in the alley, the sounds of a fight, shouting, the impact of fists on flesh. A gunshot that shatters the twilight silence. Adelaide moves to the window, compelled by curiosity, stronger than caution. What she sees stops her breath. A man is fighting three others in the narrow space between buildings, but man seems inadequate to describe him. He is massive, easily 6.5 feet tall, with shoulders that seem to span the width of the alley. He wears a coat made from a grizzly bear pelt, the fur still thick and dark. His beard is a tangled thicket hiding most of his face, but his eyes are visible. Dark, intelligent, absolutely focused. He fights with brutal efficiency, no wasted movement. He breaks one attacker's arm with a sickening crack, drops the second with a blow to the temple. The third pulls a gun. The shot goes wide, punching through the window of Adelaide's room. Glass explodes inward in a glittering spray. Adelaide drops to the floor, hands over her head as shards rain down around her. When she looks up, the giant man is staring directly at her. Their eyes meet through the broken window. Adelaide should be terrified. This stranger is clearly dangerous, clearly violent. But she is not afraid, because in his eyes she sees something she has never seen before when anyone looks at her. Not disgust, not pity, not the fearful fascination of someone seeing a freak, just recognition, as if he is seeing another human being, as if her difference is not the only thing worth noticing. The man speaks, his voice so deep it seems to come from the earth itself. Jesus Christ, she is real. The three attackers have fled, leaving their wounded behind. The giant does not pursue them. He continues to stare at Adelaide, his expression unreadable behind the beard. And then he does something that will change everything. He climbs. The wall of the hotel is old brick with enough gaps and handholds for someone strong and determined. The giant scales it with surprising agility for his size, pulling himself up to Adelaide's window with arms like tree trunks. He perches on the windowsill too large to fit through the opening. Snow has begun to fall again, dusting his bare fur coat with white. You are Adelaide Gray. Not a question, a statement of fact. Adelaide, still kneeling among the broken glass, can only nod. How do you know my name? Your father owes people. People talk. He pauses, studying her face with that same intense focus. You are worth a lot of money. Adelaide feels something cold settle in her stomach. $800. The giant's expression shifts. Something that might be anger, might be contempt. More than that, Victor Ashmore is offering $2,000 for you. The number hits Adelaide like a physical blow. Duncan had sold her for less than half her value. Had he known, or had he been too desperate, too drunk, too broken to negotiate? The giant speaks again, his tone careful now, precise. You have two choices. Stay here, get delivered tomorrow to a man who collects human oddities like other men collect stamps, or come with me. Why would you help me? Adelaide's voice is steady, though her heart hammers against her ribs. She needs to understand. She has learned the hard way that nothing is given freely. Everything has a price. The giant's answer is brutally honest. I am not helping you. I am using you. Adelaide blinks. Of all the responses she might have expected, this naked admission of motive was not among them. The giant continues, his voice flat and factual. I need Victor Ashmore to come to me. You are bait, but you will be a live bait, and I will not harm you. Dead bait is useless. And if I say no, then I leave, and tomorrow you become property, a thing to be stared at. Maybe he will be kind. Maybe he will give you good food and a nice cage, but it will still be a cage. Adelaide looks down at her hands. They are shaking, not from cold, not from fear, from something else, a feeling she does not have a name for. It takes her a moment to identify it. Hope. Will you tell me why you need Ashmore? The giant considers this, his dark eyes never leaving her face. Maybe, if you survive long enough. Adelaide makes her decision. It is not really a decision at all. It is simply the choice between one form of captivity and the possibility, however slim, of something else. I will come, but I have conditions. The giant's eyebrows rise slightly. He might be amused. It is hard to tell through the beard. You are being sold and you are making demands. If I am bait, I need to know the trap. And I need to know that when this is over, when you have done whatever you plan to do to Ashmore, I am free. The giant studies her for a long moment. Then he nods once, a sharp motion, like a contract being signed. Deal. Now move. We have maybe an hour before they check on you. Adelaide climbs through the window with the giant's help. His hand, when it closes around her wrist, is rough and calloused, but surprisingly gentle. He lowers her to the alley floor with care, then drops beside her with barely a sound, despite his size. They are turning to flee when a voice stops them. I thought you might try to run. Reverend Isaiah Thorne stands at the mouth of the alley, blocking their escape. In the darkness, he looks older than his 58 years, worn down by grief and alcohol and the accumulated weight of failures too numerous to count. The giant's hand moves to the gun at his belt. Old man, walk away. Isaiah does not move. His attention is fixed on Adelaide. Child, this man is Calvin Frost. He is wanted for desertion from the United States Army. You are trading one captor for another. Adelaide looks at the giant, at Calvin Frost. The name means nothing to her, but the accusation in Isaiah's voice is clear. Is that true? Frost does not hesitate. Yes, and he will use you for whatever vendetta he is nursing against Victor Ashmore. Also true. Adelaide feels a hysterical laugh building in her throat. At least this stranger is honest. Duncan had hidden his intentions behind the mask of paternal authority. Webb had hidden his behind the cold efficiency of business. But Calvin Frost simply states facts and lets her choose. She turns to Isaiah, and her voice is harder than she knew it could be. And what would you do? Reverend, take me to a church that did not stop my father from locking me in a cellar for 19 years. Isaiah flinches as if struck. His hands clench at his sides, and Adelaide sees the tremor more clearly now, the shaking of a man who drinks to quiet the voices of his failures. I did not know, not until today. Then you were not looking. The accusation hangs in the cold air. Isaiah opens his mouth, closes it, opens it again. When he finally speaks, his voice is raw with emotion. You are right. I failed you. I failed this whole town. I was too busy drowning in a bottle after my wife and daughter died. After I prayed and God did not answer. After I lost my faith and kept wearing the collar because I did not know what else to be. Adelaide feels something shift in her chest. Pity, perhaps. Or recognition. This man at least knows what it is to be broken. Then why are you here now? Isaiah straightens his shoulders, a gesture that speaks of military service long past, of a time when he stood for something beyond his own pain. Because maybe God is giving me one more chance, to do one thing right, to save one soul, even if I cannot save my own. Frost interrupts, his voice impatient. We do not need a drunk priest. No, Isaiah agrees. But you need someone who knows the terrain between here and wherever you are going, and someone who can buy you time when they come looking. Frost considers this, his expression, unreadable. Then he nods. You will slow us down. I will pay my way. If you fall behind, I will not wait. I understand. They leave Granite Ridge under cover of darkness. 3 unlikely companions bound by nothing but circumstance and desperation. They take Isaiah's horse and what supplies he has managed to gather. Frost moves through the shadows like something born to darkness, leading them away from the town by paths that seem to exist only in his mind. Adelaide rides behind Frost, her arms wrapped around his massive torso for balance. She can feel the heat of his body through the bare fur coat, can feel the steady rhythm of his breathing. It is the closest she has been to another human being in years. The proximity should terrify her. Instead, it feels almost safe. They ride through the night, climbing steadily into the mountains. The air grows thinner, colder. Snow falls with increasing intensity until they are moving through a white void where earth and sky blur into one. Dawn is threatening the eastern horizon when they finally reach Frost's cabin. It sits on a shelf of granite overlooking a valley that seems to fall away into infinity. The cabin itself is small but well built, constructed from massive logs, chinked with mud and moss. Smoke rises from a stone chimney, suggesting warmth within. Frost dismounts and helps Adelaide down. Her legs nearly buckle after hours of riding. He steadies her with one hand while unlocking the cabin door with the other. The interior is Spartan but clean. A single room with a sleeping loft, a stone fireplace, shelves lined with supplies, and a few precious books. The floor is covered with furs. The walls are bare except for a rifle mounted above the door. It is the most beautiful place Adelaide has ever seen. She stands in the center of the room, turning slowly, taking in every detail. Isaiah begins unloading supplies, giving them privacy. Frost watches Adelaide with an expression she cannot read. You have been planning this, she finally says, for 3 years. Planning what exactly? Frost moves to the fireplace, stirring the coals back to life before adding fresh wood. The flames catch, quickly casting dancing shadows on the walls. Victor Ashmore destroyed my life, killed people I loved, and he is untouchable. Too much money, too many connections, too many people willing to look the other way. Adelaide waits. She has learned patience in the cellar. She can wait for the rest. Frost continues, his voice flat, reciting facts as if they belong to someone else. So I am going to make him come to me on my terms, in a place where his money and his connections mean nothing, where it is just him and me and the settling of accounts. And I am bait. You are the only thing he wants more than money or power. Adelaide moves to the fire, holding her hands out to the warmth. The heat feels alien after so many years of cold. Why me specifically? Frost looks at her, carefully weighing how much to reveal. Then he makes his decision. Victor Ashmore knew your mother, Ruth Gray, before she married Duncan. Adelaide goes very still. Every muscle in her body tenses. He was obsessed with her. When she chose Duncan instead, he never forgave it. And when she died, giving birth to you, Frost trails off, but Adelaide can fill in the rest. She has always been quick to understand. quick to connect pieces that others miss. He has been looking for me ever since. Yes? That does not make sense. If he wanted me, why did Duncan have me all this time? Because Duncan hid you, kept you in that cellar, not just because of how you look, but to keep you away from a man who collects rare and beautiful things, a man who would never stop searching. The revelation crashes over Adelaide like a wave. Her entire life she had believed Duncan kept her hidden out of shame, out of disgust for her albinism. But what if it had been something else? What if buried beneath all the resentment and cruelty there had been an attempt, however twisted, at protection? The cellar, she whispers. He was not just ashamed, he was hiding me from a man who sees you as the rarest thing of all. Adelaide walks to the small window looking out at the snow-covered landscape. The sun is rising now, and she has to squint against the light even through the thick glass. Her eyes water, but she does not look away. My whole life I thought I was a curse, a punishment for some sin I did not commit. But I am not, am I? Frost's voice is quiet behind her. No. I am a prize, something to be won. You are bait, Frost corrects, but you are also a person, and I will not let him cage you. That is not part of the plan. Adelaide turns to face him, and in her eyes is something new, something hard and bright and dangerous. What is the plan? We wait. He will come. When he realizes you have disappeared, when he understands that someone has taken what he believes belongs to him, he will come. And when he does, Isaiah interrupts from the doorway, his voice heavy with the weight of old faith trying to find its footing again. Vengeance is the Lord's, not ours. Frost's expression does not change, but his voice carries the cold certainty of stone. Then, the Lord is taking too long. Adelaide looks between the two men. The broken reverend clinging to the remnants of faith. The scarred hunter embracing the dark mathematics of revenge. And herself caught between them, neither innocent enough for redemption nor damaged enough for damnation. She speaks, and her voice carries a new note, not the soft submission of the cellar, not the desperate hope of the hotel room, something else entirely. I do not care about vengeance. I do not care about God's will or man's justice. I care about one thing. Both men look at her. I want to be free, truly free, not hidden, not protected, not owned, just free. And if Victor Ashmore has to die for that to happen, she does not finish the sentence. She does not need to. Frost nods slowly, and something that might be respect flickers in his dark eyes. Outside, the snow continues to fall, covering their tracks, erasing the path they took to reach this place. In Granite Ridge, Duncan Gray will wake to find his daughter gone. Webb will discover that his merchandise has vanished. And somewhere in a mansion in Cheyenne, Victor Ashmore will receive the news that the thing he has sought for 19 years has slipped through his fingers once again. The hunt is about to begin. But this time, Adelaide Gray will not be running blind through the darkness. This time, she will know the shape of the trap. This time, she will have a choice in how this story ends. Even if that choice damns her soul, it will be hers to make. And in the flickering firelight of a cabin on a granite shelf high above the world, 3 broken people make an unspoken pact. They will wait for the monster to come. They will face him together. And when it is over, one way or another, Adelaide will finally be free. The first snowfall of March came 3 days after Adelaide arrived at the cabin, and with it the slow transformation from captive to something else entirely, something she did not yet have a name for. The morning begins before dawn, as all mornings do in the high country. Calvin Frost is already awake when Adelaide descends from the sleeping loft, her movements still tentative, still uncertain in this space that is not quite freedom, but is no longer imprisonment. He stands by the window, a dark silhouette against the pre-dawn gray, watching the tree line with the patient vigilance of a man who has learned that survival depends on seeing threats before they see you. "Coffee's hot," he says without turning, "and there's cornmeal mush if you want it." The casual domesticity of the statement feels surreal. Adelaide has spent 19 years eating scraps thrown down into a cellar like feeding an animal. The concept of choosing when and what to eat is still foreign enough to make her pause. She pours coffee into a tin cup, the bitter aroma filling her nostrils. The first sip burns her tongue, but she welcomes the pain. It is real. It is present. It is proof that she exists outside the nightmare of the cellar. Isaiah emerges from the small storage room where he has been sleeping, looking haggard and gray. He moves like a man 20 years older than his actual age, each step a negotiation between body and will. His hands shake as he reaches for the coffee pot. Frost finally turns from the window. Today we start training. Adelaide sets down her cup. Training for what? For staying alive, for being useful, for being something other than a thing that needs protecting. There is no cruelty in his voice, only pragmatism, only the hard mathematics of survival in a place where weakness means death. I can cook, Adelaide offers. I can clean. I don't need a housekeeper. I need someone who can shoot, someone who can track, someone who won't freeze when the men with guns come looking. The bluntness of it strikes Adelaide silent. She has spent her entire life trying to be useful in the only ways Duncan allowed. Quiet, obedient, invisible. The idea of being trained for violence feels like stepping across a threshold she cannot uncross. And if I refuse, Frost meets her eyes, and in his gaze is neither threat nor judgment, only certainty. Then when Ashmore's men come, you'll die. Or worse, you'll watch Isaiah die trying to protect you. Then you'll wish you were dead. Isaiah starts to protest, but Frost cuts him off with a raised hand. Don't pretend you can fight, Reverend. Your hands shake so bad you can't pour coffee without spilling it. The only thing you're good for in a gunfight is bleeding. The words are brutal, but they carry the weight of truth. Isaiah sinks into a chair, his face a study in defeat. Adelaide makes her decision. Teach me. The training begins with the rifle. Frost leads her outside into the bitter cold of a Wyoming morning in the high country. The world is monochrome, everything rendered in shades of white and gray. Snow covers the ground in drifts that reach Adelaide's knees. The sky is the color of old iron. He hands her a Winchester repeating rifle, the metal so cold it burns her hands even through the thin gloves Isaiah had found for her. This, Frost says, is a tool like a hammer or a plow. It has one purpose, which is to put holes in things you pointed at. It doesn't care if those things are elk or men. It just does what you tell it to do. Adelaide holds the rifle awkwardly, uncertain of its weight and balance. It feels alien in her hands. Wrong. I don't know if I can do this. Frost positions himself behind her, adjusting her stance with impersonal efficiency. His hands on her shoulders are firm but not intrusive. You'll never hit anything if you're afraid of the gun. I'm not afraid of the gun? Then what? Adelaide's voice is small when she answers. I'm afraid of what I might become if I use it. Frost is silent for a moment. When he speaks again, his voice carries a weight that suggests he has asked himself the same question. And what's that? Like my father. Like you. Someone who solves problems with violence. Violence isn't a solution. It's a language. And out here, it's the only one some people speak. You don't have to like it. You just have to understand it. He steps back, giving her space. See that tree, the one with the broken branch about 50 yards out? Adelaide squints her sensitive eyes, struggling with the brightness of snow even in the dim morning light. But she sees it, a ponderosa pine with a lightning scar and one branch hanging at an unnatural angle. I see it. Put a bullet in the trunk, center mass. Don't try to be fancy, just hit the tree. Adelaide raises the rifle, trying to remember the stance Frost showed her. She sights down the barrel, her finger finding the trigger. The metal is cold enough to stick to her skin. She pulls the trigger. The recoil slams into her shoulder with shocking force, spinning her halfway around. The shot goes wide, kicking up snow 15 feet to the left of the target. The sound echoes off the canyon walls, a thunderclap in the stillness. Adelaide stumbles, nearly dropping the rifle. Her shoulder throbs with immediate bruising. Tears spring to her eyes, though whether from pain or humiliation she cannot say. Frost retrieves the rifle from her shaking hands. Again. I can't. It hurts. Yes. And it will hurt more tomorrow, and the day after that, until your body learns to absorb the impact, until you stop flinching, until you can shoot without thinking about it. He hands the rifle back. Again. They spend 3 hours in the cold. Adelaide fires until her shoulder is one massive bruise, until her hands are numb and her ears ring with phantom gunshots, until she finally puts a bullet into the tree trunk. The hit is low, and to the right, barely catching the edge of the target, but it is a hit. Frost nods once. Better. Now do it again. The days blur into a rhythm of pain and small victories. Adelaide wakes before dawn, her body a catalogue of new aches. She shoots until her hands bleed from the cold and the friction of the rifle stock. She learns to load and clean the weapon with fingers so stiff she can barely feel them. But slowly, incrementally, she improves. By the end of the first week, she can hit the tree trunk consistently. By the end of the second, she can hit a mark the size of a dinner plate at 50 yards. It is not expert marksmanship, but it is competent. It is survival. Isaiah watches these sessions from the cabin doorway, nursing his coffee and his guilt in equal measure. Sometimes he offers encouragement. Sometimes he simply watches in silence, and Adelaide wonders what he sees. A girl learning to defend herself, or a soul taking its first steps toward damnation. The night vision discovery happens almost by accident. It is the beginning of the third week. Frost has decided they will hunt for fresh meat as their supplies of salted pork and dried beans are running low. He wants elk, which means tracking into the high country where the herds winter in the shelter of deep timber. They leave at dusk when the light is failing and the temperature is dropping toward the brutal cold of a mountain night. Adelaide has argued for coming, though Frost initially refused. "You can't handle the sun," he had said, "and you'll slow us down in the dark." The hunt happens at dawn and dusk, Adelaide had countered, using the knowledge she has gleaned from listening to Frost talk about tracking. "My time. When the light is low, let me try." Something in her voice, some note of determination that reminds him she is more than the broken creature Duncan kept in a cellar, makes Frost relent. They move through the forest as night settles over the mountains like a blanket. Isaiah remains at the cabin, tasked with keeping the fire going and the door barred. The old reverend had not protested. He knows his limitations. Frost moves with surprising silence, for a man his size reading the landscape through touch and memory as much as sight. Adelaide follows, trying to match his careful footwork, trying not to snap branches or dislodge rocks. But as the darkness deepens, something strange happens. Adelaide's vision does not fail. Instead, it sharpens. She has always known she could see better than others in low light, but she had attributed it to years of living in the dimness of the cellar, to eyes that had adapted to perpetual gloom. Now, in the absolute darkness of a mountain forest, with no moon to provide illumination, she understands it as something more. She can see. Not perfectly, not in color, but in shades of silver and gray and deepest black, the world reveals itself with startling clarity. She can make out individual needles on pine branches, can see the subtle difference in snow texture where animals have passed, can track the movement of an owl as it glides between trees, a silent hunter in the night. Frost stops, raising a hand for silence. Adelaide freezes. "There," he whispers, pointing into the darkness ahead. "2 elk, by the creek bed." Adelaide looks where he indicates. She sees nothing at first, then movement. 2 shapes, massive and dark, moving between the trees with the ponderous grace of their kind. But she sees more than that. 3, she corrects softly. There's a calf with them, small one, staying close to the larger cow. Frost turns to stare at her. "You can see that, can't you?" There is a long silence. Then Frost's voice, wonder creeping into his tone. "No. I can barely see my own hand in this darkness." Adelaide realizes with a shock that runs through her entire body that this is not normal. This clarity of night vision is not something all people possess. It is unique to her, a gift born from the same genetic accident that made her skin white and her eyes the color of winter twilight. Frost moves closer, his voice urgent but controlled. "How far can you see? What else can you make out?" Adelaide scans the forest, testing the limits of this newfound ability. The elk are about 60 yards ahead. The creek is frozen except for one section where the current runs too fast. There's a fallen log across it, and she stops, her body going rigid. What do you see?" "Something else. In the trees beyond the elk. Watching them, waiting." "What kind of something?" Adelaide's voice is barely a breath. "A cat, mountain lion, big one." Frost's hand moves to his rifle with practiced speed, but he does not raise it. Not yet. Where exactly? Adelaide describes the location with precise detail. The thick branch. The angle. The way the predator's body is coiled, ready to spring. Frost processes this information, making calculations. We need to take the elk before the cat does, but if we shoot and miss, we lose both. Can you track the cat if it moves? I think so. Then you're going to guide me. I'll take the shot, but you'll be my eyes. What follows is a dance of whispered directions. Adelaide describing what she sees. Frost adjusting his aim based on her words, trusting her completely, despite having known her for less than a month. The shot, when it comes, is perfect. The elk drops instantly, a clean kill. The mountain lion, startled by the gunshot, vanishes into the forest like smoke. They field dress the elk by feel more than sight, Adelaide's vision guiding the work. Frost's hands are steady and experienced, but it is Adelaide who warns him about the loose rock to his left, about the root that threatens to trip him, about the approach of a pack of coyotes drawn by the scent of blood. When they finally drag their prize back to the cabin, the eastern sky is beginning to lighten with the threat of dawn. Adelaide can feel the coming sunrise like a pressure behind her eyes, the promise of pain that will drive her back into shelter. But something has changed. She is no longer just the albino girl who must hide from the sun. She is the one who can see in the darkness, the one who can navigate the night while others stumble blind. Isaiah greets them at the door, his face showing relief at their safe return. He helps them haul the elk carcass into the small shed where the cold will preserve the meat. Later, as they sit around the fire eating fresh venison that tastes like heaven after weeks of preserved rations, Frost speaks. "Your eyes aren't a curse, they're a weapon." Adelaide looks up from her plate, meeting his gaze. Don't make me into a weapon. I've been a thing my whole life. A curse, a possession, a monster. I want to be a person." Frost sets down his food, and for the first time since she met him, his expression softens into something approaching regret. "You're right. I'm sorry. That was wrong of me to say." The apology hangs in the air, unexpected and genuine. Adelaide feels something shift in her chest, a crack in the wall she has built around herself. "But," Frost continues carefully, "being a person means using what you have. Your night vision is a gift, not because it makes you useful to me, but because it might keep you alive." Adelaide considers this, then nods slowly. "Teach me to use it, not as a weapon, as a tool, like the rifle. Deal." The third week brings Isaiah's confession. It happens on a night when the wind howls outside with such fury that conversation inside the cabin requires raised voices. They have finished their evening meal and are engaged in the quiet activities that fill the hours before sleep. Adelaide is practicing loading the rifle by feel her fingers, learning the mechanism through repetition. Frost is sharpening his hunting knife with long, methodical strokes. Isaiah sits by the fire, staring into the flames. He has been drinking, though less than usual. The bottle of whiskey he keeps in his coat has lasted nearly a week, which is a kind of progress. When he speaks, his voice is thick with emotion, held too long in silence. "I had a daughter once." Adelaide's hand still on the rifle. Frost's knife pauses mid-stroke. "About your age," Isaiah continues, not looking at either of them. 16 when she died. Influenza. 1869. She was gone in 3 days. He drinks directly from the bottle, a long pull that makes his eyes water. Her name was Rachel. She had her mother's eyes and her mother's laugh. She wanted to be a teacher, used to practice her lessons on the chickens. A sound escapes him that might be a laugh or might be a sob. "My wife Mary followed a week later. Same sickness. I prayed every hour of every day, begged God to take me instead, to spare them. But God was silent." Adelaide sets down the rifle and moves to sit beside the old reverend. She does not touch him. She simply sits close enough that he knows he is not alone. "That's when you lost your faith." "Lost it, I threw it away like a broken tool, tore the collar from my neck, and drank myself into forgetting. Except I couldn't forget. The more I drank, the clearer I saw them. Rachel reading by lamplight, Mary singing while she cooked, both of them in the ground while I kept breathing." His hands shake so violently that whiskey sloshes from the bottle. Adelaide gently takes it from him, sets it aside. Why did you help me that night, in the trading post? Isaiah finally looks at her, his eyes red and haunted. Because I couldn't save them. Couldn't save my own daughter from a sickness I couldn't fight. But maybe I could save you. Maybe that would count for something. Maybe that would make their deaths mean something other than just loss. Frost speaks from across the room, his voice harder than Adelaide's, but not unkind. That's a bad reason. I know. Trying to replace what you lost. She's not your daughter. I know that too. Then why are you really here, Reverend? Isaiah is quiet for a long moment. When he answers, his voice carries a weight of honesty that Adelaide recognizes, the sound of a man finally speaking a truth he has avoided for years. Because I'm tired. Tired of running from God. Tired of the bottle. Tired of waking up each day and wishing I hadn't. Maybe if I can do one good thing before I die, maybe that's enough. Maybe that's all any of us can hope for. Adelaide reaches out and takes his hand. His skin is papery thin, marked with age spots and scars. But his grip, when he returns the pressure, is still strong. You saved me, she says simply. That night in Granite Ridge. You could have walked away. You didn't. That counts. Isaiah's face crumples and he weeps. Great racking sobs that shake his entire frame. Adelaide holds his hand through it, all this girl who has received so little kindness, learning to give it to someone even more broken than herself. Frost watches from the shadows, his expression unreadable, but he does not interrupt. He simply lets the moment unfold, this small act of human connection in a world that seems designed to prevent such things. Later, after Isaiah has fallen into an exhausted sleep and Adelaide has climbed to the loft, Frost stands at the window, again maintaining his eternal vigil. Adelaide's voice drifts down from above. Do you think we're doing the right thing? Waiting here for Ashmore to come? I don't know if it's right. I just know it's necessary. That's not the same thing. No, it's not. Silence settles over the cabin, broken only by Isaiah's gentle snoring and the howl of the wind outside. But in that silence, something has changed. Three broken people, thrown together by circumstance, have begun to form the fragile bonds that might in time become something like family. It will not be enough. Not when the storm comes, not when the reckoning arrives. But for now, in this moment, it is what they have. And that will have to be enough. The writer appears on a Tuesday morning, 6 weeks after Adelaide first arrived at the cabin. Frost sees him first, a dark speck moving along the trail from the lower valley. He watches through the scope of his rifle, tracking the figure as it approaches, with neither hurry nor hesitation. We have company. Adelaide and Isaiah move to the windows, both of them tense. 6 weeks of relative peace have not dulled the awareness that this sanctuary is temporary, that the world they fled is still out there, still hunting. The rider comes within shouting distance and stops. He makes no aggressive moves, simply sits his horse hands visible and empty, waiting. Frost steps onto the porch rifle held loosely but ready. State your business or ride on. The rider's voice carries clearly in the thin mountain air. Name's Silas Crow. I'm here to talk, not fight. Then talk from there. Prefer to do it face to face, man to man. Frost considers this. Then to Adelaide's surprise, he lowers the rifle. Approach slow, hands where I can see them. Silas Crow rides forward with the careful movements of a man who understands he is in someone else's killing ground. As he draws closer, Adelaide can make out details. He is perhaps 45, lean and weathered, with the look of someone who has spent his life in hard country doing hard work. His eyes are sharp and intelligent, missing nothing. He stops 20 feet from the cabin, making no move to dismount. You're Calvin Frost, the man who walked out of Fort Benton with a company's worth of blood on his hands. It is not a question. Frost does not deny it. And you're a bounty hunter. I recognize the type. Silas smiles, but there is no humor in it. Was a bounty hunter. These days I'm more of a messenger. Messenger for who? Victor Ashmore. He hired me to track the girl. Adelaide feels ice form in her stomach. She steps forward, moving to stand beside Frost, despite his gesture for her to stay back. Silas's gaze shifts to her, and something flickers in his expression. Surprise, perhaps? Or recognition of something he was told to expect, but did not quite believe until seeing it. Miss Gray, or should I say Miss Ashmore. The name lands like a blow. Adelaide's hands clench into fists. My name is Adelaide Gray. Is it? Silas reaches slowly into his coat, producing an envelope. Mr. Ashmore asked me to deliver this, said it would explain everything. He tosses the envelope. It lands in the snow between them. Frost moves to retrieve it, but Adelaide is faster. She snatches it up her heart, hammering against her ribs. The envelope is heavy paper, expensive. Her name is written on the front in elegant script. Adelaide Gray, not Adelaide Ashmore. What is this? A letter from your father. Adelaide's world tilts. She looks to Frost, seeking an anchor, but his face has gone carefully blank. Duncan Gray is not here. Silas shakes his head. Not Duncan. Victor Ashmore, your real father. The words hang in the frigid air. Adelaide's fingers tremble as she opens the envelope, unfolding the letter within. The handwriting is precise, controlled, the work of an educated man. She begins to read aloud, her voice shaking. My dearest Adelaide, I imagine this comes as a shock. Duncan Gray has told you many lies. The greatest is that he is your father. He is not. Adelaide's voice falters, but she forces herself to continue. Your mother Ruth and I were to be married, but her family disapproved. I was too ambitious, too worldly. She was forced to marry Duncan instead. When she discovered she was carrying my child, Duncan agreed to raise you as his own. On one condition, that I never contact you. I honored that promise for 19 years. The paper rattles in Adelaide's shaking hands. But now Ruth is gone, and Duncan has broken his word by attempting to sell you. The contract is void. I am coming for you. Not to cage you, but to give you the life your mother wanted. Education, society, freedom from that seller. You are my daughter, my blood, my legacy. Wait for me. Your father, Victor Ashmore. Silence falls like snow. Adelaide reads the letter again, then a third time, as if repetition might change the words or reveal them as fiction. But they remain stubbornly real, each sentence a hammer blow to the foundation of everything she thought she knew about herself. Frost finally speaks, his voice carefully neutral. It could be a lie, a manipulation. Silas reaches into his saddlebag and produces a second envelope, this one thicker. Birth certificate, your mother's signature, no father listed. Marriage certificate between Victor Ashmore and Ruth Paddock, dated 2 months before she married Duncan Gray. Never finalized because her family intervened. And this. He holds up a photograph, old and creased. Even from a distance, Adelaide can see it shows a young woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile. Your mother, with Victor, before Duncan. Adelaide takes the photograph with numb fingers. The woman in the image is undeniably her mother. Adelaide has seen the single portrait Duncan kept locked in a drawer, pulled out only when he was deep in his cups and drowning in regret. But the woman in this photograph is different, younger, happier, standing beside a well-dressed man whose hand rests gently on her shoulder. The man's face is turned slightly away from the camera, but his posture speaks of pride and possession. Is this true? Adelaide's question is directed at Frost, not Silas. Did you know? Frost's jaw works, and Adelaide sees the truth before he speaks it. I suspected. The betrayal is a physical thing, a knife sliding between her ribs. And you did not tell me. Because it didn't matter. My life. How can it not matter? Because whether he's your father by blood or not, he's still the man who... Adelaide cuts him off, her voice rising with a fury she has never allowed herself to express. Who what? Finish that sentence. You keep saying he destroyed your life, that he killed people you loved, but you never say who. You never explain why. The dam has broken. 6 weeks of questions. 6 weeks of being bait in a trap she does not fully understand. 6 weeks of trusting a man who has just admitted he kept secrets that define her very existence. Frost meets her gaze, and something in his expression cracks. The careful control, the wall of pragmatism, all of it crumbles. Fort Benton, 1871. There was a massacre, not military action, civilian slaughter. Ashmore's men, posing as traitors, wiped out a Blackfoot camp. Women, children, old people who couldn't run, all of them dead. His voice is flat, reciting facts because emotion would destroy him. The reason was land. Ashmore wanted it for a railroad expansion. The Blackfoot were in the way, so he hired mercenaries, dressed them in stolen army uniforms, and sent them to clear the obstacle. And you, Adelaide presses, Where were you? I was the scout assigned to the real Army unit sent to investigate afterward. I found evidence, documents, manifests showing Ashmore had ordered the uniforms, letters discussing the operation, enough to hang him. Frost's hands clenched, the knuckles white. I was going to testify, but the night before the trial my house burned. My wife Anna was inside. My son Thomas. He was 4 years old. The name falls like a stone into deep water. Isaiah, who has been listening from the doorway, makes a small sound of anguish. Ashmore made it look like an accident. Lamp knocked over. Tragic house fire. No proof of arson. And without my testimony, without the documents that burned with my family, the case collapsed. Ashmore walked free. He turns to face Adelaide fully, and in his eyes is a pain so deep it has no bottom. So I deserted. Couldn't serve an army that protected men like that. Couldn't exist in a world where murdering children is acceptable if you have enough money to buy silence. I came to the mountains to die. But dying turned out to be harder than I thought. Adelaide feels tears on her cheeks but does not wipe them away. And I'm just part of your revenge. Another tool, like the rifle. You were, at first. And now, Frost cannot answer. Or will not. The silence stretches between them, unbridgeable. Silas clears his throat, uncomfortable with the raw emotion on display. For what it's worth, Miss Gray, the decision is yours. I'm paid to deliver the letter and offer you a choice. Come with me to Cheyenne. Meet Victor Ashmore. Hear his side. Or stay here with a wanted man and a drunk priest and wait for this to end badly. Adelaide looks at the letter in her hand, at the photograph of her mother smiling beside a man who might be her real father, at Frost, who saved her only to use her, at Isaiah, who protects her, to redeem his own failures. Everyone wants something from her. Everyone sees her as a solution to their own problems. She makes a decision. I need to speak with Mr. Crow, alone. Frost starts to object, but Adelaide cuts him off with a look that brooks no argument. Alone. She walks away from the cabin, Silas following at a respectful distance. When they are out of earshot, she turns to face him. If I go with you, what happens? Silas considers the question carefully. Ashmore takes you to Cheyenne, gives you a house education, everything money can buy, makes you his heir. And if I refuse, he'll keep sending people. Not all of them will be as patient as me. Not all of them will care if you're delivered alive or just delivered. Adelaide looks back at the cabin where Frost and Isaiah wait. Two broken men trying to use her brokenness to fix themselves. What do you think I should do? Silas seems surprised by the question. Me, I'm just a messenger. You're a person, and I'm asking. He studies her for a long moment, this strange, pale girl who speaks with a directness most people lack. Afinink, rich men collect things, art, horses, daughters. Once you're in Ashmore's house, you'll trade one cage for another, different bars. Nicer view, but still a cage. And staying with Frost. He'll get himself killed trying to get revenge, probably get you killed in the process. Adelaide feels a bitter laugh build in her chest. So both choices are cages. Every choice is a cage, Miss Gray. Question is, which one has the bigger cell? Before Adelaide can respond, the sound of horses. Many horses, coming fast. Silas spins his hand, dropping to his gun. That's not me, I came alone. Frost bursts from the cabin, rifle in hand. Get inside. Now. Adelaide runs, Silas running with her. They reach the cabin just as riders crest the ridge. 8 men, heavily armed, spreading out to surround the building. And behind them, approaching with the unhurried confidence of a man who knows he has already won, is a carriage. Expensive. Out of place in this wilderness, Victor Ashmore has come to claim his daughter. The siege begins with words, not bullets. A man dismounts from the lead horse, his movements precise and military. He wears a duster that cannot quite hide the captain's insignia on his jacket underneath. Adelaide Ashmore, your father is here to bring you home. The voice is cultured, educated, completely at odds with the wilderness setting. Adelaide looks through a crack in the shuttered window. The speaker is perhaps 40, well-groomed with the bearing of a professional soldier. Behind him, the other men have taken up positions with the practiced efficiency of experienced fighters. And from the carriage steps, Victor Ashmore himself. He is not what Adelaide expected. Duncan had been rough, crude, shaped by poverty and hard living. Ashmore is his opposite in every way. Tall, distinguished, dressed in clothes that speak of wealth and taste. His hair is silver at the temples, his face handsome in a way that age has refined rather than diminished. He looks nothing like a monster. He looks like someone's beloved grandfather, like a philanthropist, like respectability given human form. He walks toward the cabin with neither weapon nor visible fear, arms spread in a gesture of peace. "Adelaide, I know you're frightened, but I'm not here to hurt you." Frost aims his rifle at Ashmore's chest. "One more step and you die." Ashmore stops, but his expression remains calm, almost amused. "Calvin Frost, I wondered if you were still alive, wondered if grief had finally driven you to eat a bullet in some forgotten canyon. Keep talking and find out. I'm not here for you, deserter. I'm here for my daughter." The word daughter hangs in the air. Adelaide feels its weight, its claim on her. Ashmore continues, his voice carrying the reasonable tones of someone explaining simple facts to a child. "Frost is using you. He wants to draw me out so he can kill me. But I understand. I understand grief. I understand rage. The fire that killed his family was tragic, an accident, but he can't accept that. He needs someone to blame." Frost's finger tightens on the trigger. "Liar." "I have the investigation report, signed by the territorial marshal. Accidental house fire caused by a lamp left too close to the curtains. No evidence of arson, no evidence of foul play." "You bought that report. You bought the marshal. You bought your way out of justice like you always do." Ashmore sighs, the sound of a patient man dealing with unreasonable opposition. "Adelaide, I have something for you. A letter from your mother, written before she died. She wanted me to have you if anything happened to her, but Duncan hid it, kept it from you." He holds up an envelope, yellowed with age. "Come out. Read it for yourself. Then decide who's telling the truth." Adelaide looks at Frost, at Isaiah, at Silas. Three men, each with their own agenda, each with their own version of truth. And then she looks at the door. Isaiah grabs her arm. "Child, whatever you choose, choose for yourself. Not for them, not for Ashmore, not for Frost, for you." Adelaide pulls free gently. "I need to know." She unbolts the door and steps out into the cold morning air. Frost shouts her name, but she does not stop. She walks toward Victor Ashmore with her head high, her strange eyes meeting his without flinching. Ashmore smiles, and it transforms his face into something almost kind. "There she is, my daughter." Adelaide stops 10 feet away. "I'll read the letter, then I'll decide." Ashmore extends the envelope. Adelaide takes it, her hands surprisingly steady. The paper is old, the ink faded, but still legible. She recognizes her mother's handwriting from the single letter Duncan had shown her once years ago. Adelaide reads aloud, her voice carrying in the still air. "Victor, if you are reading this, I am gone, and you have found Adelaide. I was wrong to marry Duncan, wrong to hide your daughter from you, but I was afraid you would take her, and I would never see her again." Her voice wavers, but continues. "She is special, not because of how she looks, but because of who she is. Protect her, love her, give her the life I could not. But Victor, and this is important, do not cage her, do not make her into something she is not. Let her be free, let her choose. That is all a mother can ask." Adelaide finishes reading. Tears stream down her face, carving tracks through the dust and grime of weeks in the wilderness. Ashmore steps closer, his voice gentle. "You see, I'm not the monster Frost painted me as. I'm your father. And I've been searching for you for 19 years. Adelaide looks at him, really looks at him, sees the well-made clothes, the cultured, bearing the reasonable expression, sees a man who could give her everything Duncan never could, and she sees the trap. "No," Ashmore's smile falters. "What? You're something worse than a monster." His expression shifts, confusion, giving way to something harder. "What are you talking about?" Adelaide drops the letter into the snow. "You're a man who thinks love is ownership. My mother said, let me choose. So I'm choosing. And I choose neither of you." She turns and starts walking back to the cabin. Ashmore's voice follows her, no longer gentle, no longer reasonable. "Adelaide, be sensible." She keeps walking. "Adelaide, I'm your father." She reaches the porch. "Adelaide." The word is a command now. The mask has slipped, revealing the man beneath, the collector who will not be denied his prize. "Take her." The captain and his men move forward. Frost opens fire from the cabin window. The shot takes one man in the shoulder, spinning him around. Chaos erupts. Silas, who has been watching from the tree line, makes his choice. He shoots two of Ashmore's men, evening the odds. Isaiah grabs Adelaide, pulling her toward the cabin. Run! But Adelaide plants her feet, not without Calvin. A bullet strikes the doorframe inches from her head. Isaiah bodily lifts her, carrying her toward the trees as Frost provides covering fire. They run into the forest, Adelaide struggling against Isaiah's grip, trying to turn back. Behind them, the sound of fighting continues. Gunfire, shouting, the thud of bodies hitting frozen ground, and then a cry of pain in Frost's voice cut short. Adelaide screams, but Isaiah does not stop. He crashes through the underbrush with strength born of desperation, putting distance between them and the cabin. They run until Adelaide's lungs burn, until her legs give out, and Isaiah finally sets her down. They are deep in the forest, the cabin lost from view. The sounds of violence have faded, replaced by the eerie silence of the wilderness. Adelaide kneels in the snow, gasping for air, tears freezing on her cheeks. "We have to go back. We have to help him." Isaiah shakes his head, his own face gray with exertion. "We can't. There were too many. He knew that. That's why he told me to get you out. He's going to die. Maybe. Or maybe he'll survive. Maybe he'll escape. But if we go back now, we definitely die. And then his sacrifice means nothing." Adelaide looks at the old reverend, seeing him clearly for the first time. Not the drunk, not the failure, but a man who, when it mattered, had found enough courage to save a life. "What do we do now?" Isaiah helps her to her feet, his hands gentle but firm. "We survive. We hide. We wait until we know what happened." But Adelaide shakes her head. Something has hardened inside her during the flight through the forest, something that will not bend anymore. No, we can't keep running, can't keep hiding. Ashmore will never stop. He'll hunt us across the entire territory. He'll burn down every cabin. He'll threaten every person who helps us. He won't quit until he has me. Isaiah starts to argue, but Adelaide cuts him off. "I've been prey my whole life, Reverend, hiding in that cellar, hiding from the sun, hiding from people who couldn't stand to look at me. I'm done hiding." "Then what?" Adelaide looks back toward the cabin, toward the man who used her but also taught her, toward the confrontation that has been building since the moment she stepped into freedom. When she speaks, her voice is cold, hard, the voice of someone who has finally stopped being afraid. "We go back, but not to rescue Calvin. Not to run, we go back to end this. How? I don't know yet. But Ashmore wants me, so I'll give him what he wants. On my terms, in my time. And when it's over one way or another, I'll be free." Isaiah studies her face, seeing the transformation. The girl is gone. Something else has taken her place. And if that means killing, Adelaide meets his eyes, and in her violet gaze is a certainty that chills him more than the winter cold. "Then I'll pay that price. Because the cost of freedom is everything, and I have nothing left to lose." They stand in the snow, the forest silent around them. Behind them is safety. Ahead is violence and blood and choices that will damn or save. Adelaide chooses ahead. She has spent 19 years in the dark waiting for permission to live. She will not wait any longer. The hunt has become a war. And Adelaide Gray, the girl made of winter and moonlight, has finally learned to be what the world made her. Dangerous. 2 weeks pass before Adelaide and Isaiah find Calvin Frost, and when they do, he is more corpse than man. The abandoned mining camp sits in a ravine 3 miles east of the cabin, a collection of rotting structures that miners left behind when the silver vein played out. Adelaide and Isaiah have been tracking through the wilderness, following rumors and whispers from trappers and drifters, piecing together what happened in the battle they fled. The story they heard was grim. Ashmore's men had overwhelmed the cabin. Frost had fought like a demon, killing 3, before taking a bullet to the shoulder and another to the ribs. But he had escaped in the chaos, vanishing into the forest like smoke. Ashmore had burned the cabin to the ground, had posted men on every trail leading down from the high country, had offered $1,000 for information leading to Adelaide's capture. But the wilderness is vast, and men with money are rarely as clever as they believe themselves to be. Adelaide finds Frost in the largest of the mining shacks, half buried under moldy blankets, that reek of rot and sickness. His face is gray, his breathing shallow and wet. The wounds have festered. Infection has set in with the grim certainty of death. Isaiah kneels beside him, pulling back the blankets to examine the damage. His hands, steadier now than they have been in years, probe the wounds with the practiced touch of a man who has seen battlefield injuries. The shoulder's bad, but the ribs are worse. Bullets still in there. He's burning up with fever. Adelaide feels something crack inside her chest. This man had used her, had lied to her, had kept secrets that defined her very existence, but he had also saved her from the trading post, had taught her to shoot, had looked at her and seen a person instead of a curiosity. She cannot let him die. Not like this, not in a forgotten hole in the ground alone and unmourned. Can you save him? Isaiah meets her eyes, and in his gaze is the brutal honesty of a man who has stopped lying to himself. Maybe. If we can get the bullet out, if the infection hasn't spread too far, if he's strong enough to survive what I'll have to do to him, then do it. What follows is butchery disguised as surgery. Isaiah builds a fire, sterilizes his knife in the flames, and gives Frost a leather strap to bite down on. Adelaide holds the lantern steady, forcing herself to watch as Isaiah cuts into living flesh. Frost screams once, a sound of agony so profound it barely seems human. Then he passes into unconsciousness, his body going limp. Isaiah works with grim determination, his fingers probing the wound, searching for the bullet. Blood wells up black and thick. The smell of infection is overwhelming. Adelaide does not look away. She has spent 19 years looking away from hard things. She will not do so anymore. The bullet, when Isaiah finally extracts it, is a misshapen lump of lead. He drops it into the dirt with a sound of disgust. Now we wait and pray. Adelaide tends Frost through the fever dreams that follow. She bathes his burning skin with snowmelt, forces water between his cracked lips, listens to him mutter names of the dead. Anna, Thomas, names that belong to the family he lost. On the third night, his fever breaks. He wakes in the small hours before dawn, his eyes focusing on Adelaide's face with slow recognition. "You came back." His voice is a ruined whisper, barely audible. "Of course I came back." "Why I used you, lied to you." Adelaide dips a cloth in water, wringing it out before placing it on his forehead. "Because you also saved me, and because I'm not done with you yet." Something that might be a smile touches Frost's cracked lips. "What are you planning?" Adelaide tells him. The plan she has been forming during the 2 weeks of searching. The plan that will end this one way or another. When she finishes, Frost tries to sit up. The effort costs him, and he falls back with a gasp of pain. "That's suicide." "No, it's the only way. Ashmore will kill you, or worse." Adelaide's expression does not change. She has made her peace with what comes next. "Then I'll die on my terms. Not his, not Duncan's, mine." Frost grabs her wrist with surprising strength for a man who was dying days ago. "Listen to me. Victor Ashmore is not the man he pretends to be. He's not a grieving father looking for his lost daughter. He's a collector. You're the rarest piece in his collection. He won't love you. He'll possess you." "I know." "Then why walk into his trap? Because it's not his trap anymore. It's mine." She pulls her wrist free gently. "Rest. Heal. When this is over, you'll be free. The charges dropped. The past buried. You can go back to the world if you want, or stay in the mountains, but you'll have a choice." "And you," Adelaide stands, moving to the door where a gray dawn is beginning to seep through the cracks. "I'll finally know who I am. Daughter of Duncan, daughter of Victor, or just Adelaide. Maybe that's enough." She leaves him there, still too weak to follow. Isaiah waits outside, his face drawn with worry. "Are you certain about this?" "No, but I'm doing it anyway." They send word to Ashmore through a trapper who owes Isaiah a favor. The message is simple. Adelaide will surrender, peacefully. If Victor meets her conditions, drop all charges against Calvin Frost, release Duncan Gray from his debts, let Adelaide see her mother's grave. The response comes within 3 days. Ashmore agrees. He names the location. The old church in Granite Ridge, neutral ground. Isaiah reads the message twice, looking for traps. He agreed too easily. Of course he did. He thinks he's won. And he hasn't. Adelaide checks the small knife hidden in her boot. The blade she took from Ashmore's man during her escape all those weeks ago. The blade that is still stained with old blood. He's won when I say he's won, not before. The ride down from the high country takes 2 days. Adelaide and Isaiah travel light, taking only what they can carry. Behind them, Frost remains in the mining camp, still too weak to ride, but healing. Silas Crow has agreed to watch over him, a debt repaid for the bounty hunter's unexpected aid during the battle. The world below the mountains seems smaller than Adelaide remembers, dirtier, more cramped. The air is thick after the crystalline clarity of altitude. The sun is a physical weight, pressing down on her, even through the heavy hat and veils she wears. Granite Ridge has not changed. It remains a collection of desperate structures clinging to existence through sheer stubbornness. But something feels different. The people move with a tension that was not there before. They watch Adelaide and Isaiah ride past with expressions that mix fear and fascination. Word has spread. The white ghost, the albino girl who escaped Victor Ashmore, the one who is worth $1,000 to whoever can deliver her, but no one moves to claim the bounty. Perhaps because Isaiah rides with his hand on his gun, his eyes daring anyone to try. Or perhaps because some stories are bigger than money. Some legends deserve to play out to their conclusion. The church sits at the edge of town, a structure of weathered wood with a steeple that leans slightly to the left. It has not held services in years, not since the last real reverend died of cholera. Now it serves as a storage building for the excess goods the trading post cannot hold. Perfect neutral ground, public enough to prevent outright murder, private enough for words that need to be spoken away from prying ears. Ashmore is already there when they arrive. His carriage sits outside fine horses, stamping impatiently in the cold. 4 men stand guard, the same captain and soldiers from the siege at the cabin. Their eyes track Adelaide's approach with the flat affect of men who kill for money and lose no sleep over it. And standing in the doorway of the church, dressed in clothes that cost more than most men earn in a year, is Victor Ashmore himself. He smiles when he sees Adelaide, and the expression seems genuine, warm, the smile of a father reunited with a lost child. Adelaide dismounts, her movements deliberate and unhurried. She walks toward the church with her head high, her violet eyes meeting Ashmore's without flinching. Adelaide, I'm glad you came to your senses. I came for answers. Then I'll decide. Fair enough. What do you want to know? They enter the church together, Isaiah following close behind. The interior is dim, dusty, smelling of old wood and older faith. Broken pews line the walls. The altar is bare except for a single candle lit by Ashmore in a gesture that might be respect or might be theater. Adelaide stops in the center of the nave, turning to face the man who claims to be her father. Did you really love my mother? Ashmore's expression softens with what appears to be genuine emotion. More than anything in this world, Ruth was everything. Kind, beautiful, pure in a way that's rare. When her family forced her to marry Duncan instead of me, it broke something inside me that never healed. Then why did you let her go? I didn't let her. She was taken by people who cared more about propriety than happiness. By the time I had enough money and power to fight them, she was already pregnant with you. Did she know that you would come for me? Yes, we had an agreement. Duncan would raise you until you were 18. Then I would give you a choice. Your mother wanted you to have both worlds, the simplicity of frontier life and the opportunities that wealth could provide. But Duncan never told me. He kept me locked away. Ashmore's face hardens with something that looks like genuine anger. Because he's a coward who couldn't stand looking at you and seeing Ruth's choice to love me instead of him. He turned his failure into your punishment. The words ring with a truth that Adelaide cannot deny. Duncan's cruelty had always carried the weight of something deeper than disgust, something more personal than shame. But before Adelaide can respond, the church door bursts open with violence that makes everyone spin toward the sound. Duncan Gray stumbles in drunk and desperate and filthy. He has not bathed in weeks. His clothes are rags. His face is a roadmap of dissolution and despair. But his eyes, when they lock on Adelaide, burn with something that might be madness or might be the last desperate clarity of a man with nothing left to lose. "Liar!" The word echoes in the empty church. Ashmore's hand moves toward his coat, but the captain is faster stepping between them with practiced efficiency. "Gray, you weren't invited." Duncan ignores him, his attention fixed on Ashmore with the intensity of hatred too long suppressed. "Don't listen to him, Adelaide. It's all lies, every word." Ashmore's voice is cold now, the warmth evaporated. "You're drunk, Duncan, again. Leave before you embarrass yourself further." "Ruth didn't love you. She feared you." The accusation hangs in the dusty air. Ashmore's face goes very still. "Careful!" But Duncan has gone past careful, past rational. He lurches forward, pointing at Ashmore with a shaking hand. "She married me to escape you. You wouldn't leave her alone, even after she said no. Even after she begged you to stop sending letters and gifts and men to follow her. You stalked her like an animal." Adelaide feels the world tilting beneath her feet. "Is this true?" Ashmore's expression shifts, cycling through emotions too quickly to read. Anger, guilt, justification. Finally settling on something like resignation. "I pursued her. Yes, because I loved her, because I knew we were meant to be together. Sometimes love requires persistence." "She was terrified of you." Duncan's voice breaks. "That's why she made me promise. If anything happened to her, I had to hide Adelaide. Keep her away from you, keep her invisible." Adelaide's voice is very quiet when she speaks. "So you hid me in a cellar. For 19 years. Duncan finally looks at her, and tears stream down his weathered face. "I had to." He has eyes everywhere. Money everywhere. The only way to keep you safe was to keep you hidden, to make sure no one knew you existed. And the abuse, the beatings, the starvation. Duncan's face crumples. "I was angry. Every time I looked at you, I saw her, saw what I lost, saw the promise I had to keep, even though it cost me everything. And I took it out on you. God forgive me, I took it out on you." He drops to his knees, sobbing. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. You deserved better." She deserved better. I failed you both. Adelaide stands frozen, the foundations of her understanding cracking and reforming. Duncan is not her father, but Victor might not be either. The only certainty is that her mother was caught between two men, and Adelaide has spent her entire life paying the price. The church door opens again, and Silas Crow enters. But he is not alone. He carries documents, papers that smell of archives and official seals. Thought everyone should know the whole truth before this goes any further. He spreads the documents on a broken pew. Birth certificates, marriage licenses, letters written in fading ink. Ruth Paddock was married once before Duncan, to William Gray, Duncan's brother. Died in early 1855, just before Adelaide was born. Mining accident in the Silver Crown shaft. Everyone goes still. Adelaide feels as if the ground has opened beneath her feet. Silas continues, his voice flat and factual. "Victor Ashmore courted Ruth after William's death. She refused him. Multiple times. There are letters, Ruth to her sister, describing how Ashmore wouldn't take no for an answer. How he followed her, sent gifts she returned, made threats when she tried to involve the law. Ashmore's face has gone pale. Those are forgeries. Authenticated by 3 separate archivists. Want to keep lying." Silas picks up another document. Duncan married Ruth to protect her. To give her a name and a home where Ashmore couldn't touch her. It was a marriage of convenience, of protection. He looks at Adelaide. "William Gray was your father. He died in February 1855 when Ruth was 7 months pregnant. You were born that April. Duncan raised you because he loved his brother and felt he owed Ruth protection. And Victor Ashmore has been chasing a fantasy for 20 years. You were never his daughter. You were just another thing he wanted and couldn't have." The silence that follows is absolute. Adelaide stares at the documents, her mind struggling to process the revelation. Her father was a man she never knew, a man who died before she drew breath. Duncan is her uncle, not her father. And Victor Ashmore is simply a man who confused obsession with love. Ashmore breaks first. His composure shatters like dropped glass. No, she loved me. Ruth loved me. She told me. She said—" His voice trails off as he realizes the lie he has been telling himself for 2 decades. Adelaide speaks, and her voice is cold enough to frost the air. She feared you, and you couldn't accept it, so you rewrote the story in your head until you believed your own lies. Ashmore's eyes focus on her with sudden intensity. But I can still give you everything. Education, wealth, a life beyond this frontier squalor. Blood doesn't matter. I can still be your father. You can't buy love, mister. Ashmore, you can't force it. You can't cage it and call it family. Adelaide, please, be reasonable. She shakes her head. I've been reasonable for 19 years. I'm done. Ashmore's expression shifts. The mask of civilization already cracked falls away completely. What remains is ugly, desperate, dangerous. If I can't have you willingly, I'll take you by force. You're mine. Ruth was mine. You're all I have left of her. He pulls a small pistol from his coat, aiming it at Adelaide, with a hand that trembles with emotion rather than fear. The captain steps back, his face showing distaste. Sir, I signed on for security work, not this. Do your job or you don't get paid. But the captain shakes his head, holstering his weapon. I'm done. This isn't what I agreed to. He walks out, followed by two of the other guards. Only one remains, a hard-faced man who looks like he would shoot his own mother for the right price. Ashmore's gun never wavers from Adelaide. Come with me, or I start killing everyone you've touched. Adelaide does not flinch. She has spent her entire life being afraid. The fear has burned away, leaving only clarity. Then you'll have to kill me too, because I'm not going anywhere with you. I won't kill you, you're too valuable. Then you've already lost. The moment stretches taut as a wire. Ashmore's finger tightens on the trigger. Isaiah tenses, preparing to throw himself between the gun and Adelaide. Duncan remains on his knees, broken beyond caring, and Adelaide makes her choice. She steps forward, closing the distance between herself and the gun. Ashmore's eyes widen in surprise. What are you doing? You want me? Take me. She walks right up to the barrel of the gun, close enough that Ashmore could not miss if he fired. Close enough that the weapon becomes useless as a threat. Ashmore lowers the pistol slightly, confusion replacing certainty. If you let them walk out of here, all of them, I'll come with you. No fight, no resistance. You promise? I promise. Ashmore considers this suspicion warring with desperate hope. Finally he nods. Agreed. Everyone leaves. Now. Isaiah starts to protest, but Adelaide cuts him off with a look. It's all right, Reverend. This is my choice. Duncan rises on unsteady legs. Adelaide, I can't let you. You've spent 19 years trying to protect me, Uncle Duncan. Let me protect myself now. The word uncle seems to strike Duncan like a physical blow. He staggers, then nods, understanding that this is her decision to make. They leave. Isaiah, Duncan, Silas, walking out of the church into the cold afternoon light, leaving Adelaide alone with the man who has haunted her existence since before she was born. Ashmore holsters his pistol, reaching out as if to embrace her. Finally, my daughter, my... Adelaide's hand moves with the speed of a striking snake. The knife from her boot finds Ashmore's stomach, sliding between ribs with the ease of a key in a lock. Ashmore gasps, his eyes going wide with shock. Blood spreads across his expensive shirt, a dark stain that grows with each heartbeat. You stabbed me. Adelaide steps back, the bloody knife still in her hand. Her face is calm, empty of emotion. I'm not your daughter. I'm not anyone's daughter anymore. I'm just Adelaide. And you're the monster who couldn't let my mother rest in peace. Ashmore stumbles backward, his hand pressing against the wound. Blood seeps between his fingers. I loved her. I loved you. Love doesn't look like this. He collapses against a pew, sliding down until he sits on the dusty floor. The remaining guard moves toward Adelaide, but she turns the knife on him. Leave, or join him. The guard looks at his dying employer, at the small woman with the bloody knife and the eyes that reflect no mercy. He makes the smart choice. He runs. Adelaide kneels beside Ashmore, watching the life drain from him with the same clinical detachment she once reserved for watching her father's drunken rages. You could have let her go, could have accepted no, could have moved on, but you turned love into possession, and possession into obsession, and obsession into this. Ashmore tries to speak, but blood fills his mouth. His hand reaches out, perhaps seeking comfort or forgiveness. Adelaide does not take it. She simply waits, watches, bears witness to the death of the man who shaped her life through his inability to accept rejection. When it is over, when the light fades from Ashmore's eyes and his hand falls to the floor with a sound like a final judgment, Adelaide stands. She drops the knife beside the body, and she walks out of the church into a world where Victor Ashmore no longer exists to haunt her. Outside, Isaiah and the others wait. Their faces show horror at the blood on Adelaide's hands, horror and understanding. Is he dead? Adelaide nods. It's done. Duncan steps forward, and for the first time in Adelaide's memory, he looks at her with something other than resentment or guilt. What will you do now? Adelaide looks down at her hands, at the blood that stains her pale skin, at the proof that she is capable of killing, that she has become the thing she feared. I don't know, but for the first time in my life, that's my choice to make. The days that follow are a blur of official statements and unofficial understandings. Silas Crowe speaks to the territorial marshal, explaining that Ashmore died attempting to abduct Adelaide by force. Self-defense. Clear cut. The marshal, who has heard rumors of Ashmore's business practices and has no love for rich men who think money buys immunity from law, accepts this explanation with suspicious ease. Duncan uses what little money he has left to buy a ticket east. Before he leaves, he seeks out Adelaide one last time. They meet in the cemetery, standing beside a simple wooden cross that marks Ruth's grave. Someone, probably Duncan, has kept it clear of weeds. I'm leaving the territory, going back to Ohio where I was born, try to make something of the years I have left. Adelaide nods. She has no words of forgiveness to offer. The wounds Duncan inflicted run too deep for easy healing. Will you be all right? I don't know, but I'll be free. That's enough for now. Duncan reaches into his coat and pulls out a small bundle wrapped in cloth. These were your mother's. I kept them, meant to give them to you when you were older, but I never found the courage. Inside the cloth are photographs. Ruth as a young woman smiling. Ruth with William Gray on their wedding day. Ruth holding a baby that must be Adelaide herself, and one letter written in Ruth's hand. To my daughter. If I should not survive to tell you myself, you are loved, you are wanted, you are a blessing, not a curse. Never let anyone tell you different. Your mother, Ruth. Adelaide reads the letter 3 times, tears streaming down her face. This is what she needed. Not Victor's obsession or Duncan's twisted protection, just the simple knowledge that her mother wanted her, loved her. Thank you. Duncan nods and walks away. Adelaide watches him go, feeling nothing. No hatred, no love, just the empty space where family should have been. Calvin Frost recovers slowly. By the time Adelaide returns to the mining camp, he is well enough to ride. Together with Isaiah, they make their way to Wind River Reservation, where Chief Washaki has offered sanctuary. The chief receives them with the quiet dignity of a man who has seen empires rise and fall. The one they call Moonblood. You have come. Adelaide bows, unsure of the proper protocol. I have nowhere else to go. Washaki gestures to the camp spread before them. Lodges made of hide and canvas. Families working, cooking, living, despite the weight of a changing world pressing down on them. This is a place for those caught between worlds. Not quite one thing, not quite another. You will fit here. And she does. Over the months that follow, Adelaide finds something she never had in Duncan's cellar or Ashmore's obsession. She finds purpose. She teaches the children to read using the skills Isaiah taught her during those long nights in the cabin. She helps the women with tasks that require night vision, standing watch over the camp during the dark hours when others cannot see. Frost stays as well, building cabins for families who need shelter. The charges against him are dropped quietly, Ashmore's death severing the chains of the past. But Frost does not return to civilization. He has learned that some men are meant for the edges, for the spaces between the world that was and the world that is coming. Isaiah finds his faith again not in doctrine or dogma, but in simple service. He tends the sick, buries the dead, and offers what comfort he can to people who have every reason to reject the God of the white man, but somehow find grace anyway. 6 months pass, then a year. Adelaide stands on a ridge overlooking the reservation as the sun sets, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. Frost approaches, moving quietly despite his size. You doing all right? Adelaide considers the question. Is she all right? She has killed a man. Has discovered her entire identity was built on lies and misconceptions. Has lost every certainty she once had about who she was and where she belonged. But she is also free, truly free for the first time in her life. I'm alive. That's enough. Frost nods, understanding that some questions have no easy answers. Duncan's dead. Got word today. Cholera. Died in a boarding house in Cincinnati. Adelaide feels nothing at this news. Duncan has been dead to her since the day they parted in Granite Ridge. And the debts cleared. Ashmore's estate settled everything before it was divided up among his legitimate heirs. Turns out he had a wife back east. 3 children who didn't know about his obsession with your mother. Adelaide wonders what those children feel learning their father was not the man they thought. Then she realizes she knows exactly what they feel. We're all orphans now. All of us who loved people who turned out to be strangers. Frost does not argue. He simply stands beside her, watching the sunset. 2 broken people who have found something like peace in the aftermath of violence. Below them, the camp comes alive with the sounds of evening. Cooking fires, children laughing. The steady rhythm of life continuing despite everything the world has done to stop it. Adelaide descends from the ridge as darkness falls. Her time. When the world becomes clear and she can see with perfect clarity, she does not know what the future holds, does not know if she will stay here forever or move on when the reservation can no longer provide the sanctuary it offers now. But she knows one thing with absolute certainty. She is Adelaide, not Gray, not Ashmore, just Adelaide. And that is enough. The debt of winter has been paid, in blood, in sacrifice, in the hard mathematics of survival. And Adelaide, the girl maid of moonlight and winter, walks into the darkness with her head high and her eyes clear. She is free, and freedom, she has learned, is worth any price. Epilogue. 18 months after Victor Ashmore died on the floor of a forgotten church, a letter finds its way to Wind River Reservation. The envelope is expensive, the handwriting is elegant, the return address is Cheyenne. Adelaide opens it with steady hands. She is no longer afraid of ghosts from the past. Miss Gray, my name is Catherine Ashmore. I am Victor Ashmore's eldest daughter. I never knew about you until after my father's death, when his private journals were discovered. In them he wrote extensively about you, about your mother, about his obsession that consumed him for 20 years. I am writing to apologize for the pain my father caused you. I am also writing to inform you that there is money, a substantial sum set aside in a trust bearing your name established years ago when my father first learned of your existence. It is yours by legal right. The amount is enough to start a new life anywhere you choose, to leave the frontier, to have the education and opportunities my father claimed he wanted to give you. The choice is yours. It always should have been. If you wish to claim the inheritance, my lawyer will handle the arrangements. If you prefer to leave it unclaimed, it will revert to my father's estate after 7 years. I hope you have found peace. I hope you are free. Sincerely, Catherine Ashmore. Adelaide reads the letter twice. Then she walks to the fire and feeds it to the flames. Frost, who has been watching from across the room, speaks quietly. That was a lot of money. It was blood money. I don't need it. What do you need? Adelaide looks around the simple dwelling she has made her home. At the children's slates where she teaches reading every morning, at the mending pile where she helps repair clothes in the evening, at the rifle by the door that she uses to hunt meat for families who cannot hunt for themselves. Just this. She meets Frost's eyes. Ashmore thought he could buy me. Duncan thought he could hide me. Everyone thought I was something to be controlled. But I'm not anyone's daughter anymore. Not Duncan's, not William's, not Victor's. Then who are you? Adelaide smiles, and it is the first time Frost has seen genuine peace in her expression. I'm Adelaide, teacher, hunter, friend, someone who chooses her own path. And if they come looking again, if Catherine sends lawyers, if someone else decides you're worth pursuing, then I'll deal with it, but on my terms, always on my terms. Outside, the sun is setting. Adelaide's time. The twilight hours when her eyes see clearly, and the world reveals itself in shades of silver and shadow. She steps into the evening breathing air that tastes of freedom and possibility. Behind her, Frost and Isaiah continue their quiet conversation. Around her, the reservation settles into the rhythms of night. And ahead of her, the future stretches unmarked and unknown. For the first time in her life, Adelaide does not fear the unknown. She walks into it with her eyes open and her head high. The debt of winter has been paid in full, and Adelaide, forged in darkness and freed by violence, has finally become exactly who she was always meant to be, herself. The end.